Hello there everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. What a crazy morning. A lot of us are expecting some sort of Switch 2 announcement literally at any point. Frankly, maybe even at this point, maybe we should have seen it. But earlier this morning in the wee hours of the night, we actually got a pretty substantial leak regarding the Switch 2 with a potential look at the actual hardware. A prototype has seemingly been leaked by a Chinese forum poster. So we're going to be looking at the Reddit Gaming Leaks and Rumors Reddit here. Now, there have been some updates here. I'm glad I didn't make a video immediately because as you can see right here, they say update. The CAD renders may not be legitimate. It wasn't stated that the renders were mock-ups. However, the original poster was a 3D modeling enthusiast, so it's a possibility that should be considered. Nevertheless, the two photos depicting actual hardware are likely real. And what they're talking about is all of these 3D models that came out depicting what seems to be the Switch 2 based on all of the hardware kind of shipping data and everything we've heard about the Switch 2. Everything in this lines up perfectly with what we've heard. Magnetic Joy-Con, bigger screen, less bezel. There's a new button on the right Joy-Con, which we'll talk about. There's two USB-C ports. We also have a leaked spec sheet, so a lot to talk about today. But then also there are some other things I want to talk about, including this right here. So basically every trailer for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero that's come out so far has been posted at 7 a.m. For some reason, tomorrow's getting posted at 6:30 a.m. Conspiracy stuff, but we'll get to that later. Let's focus on the main thing for right now, though, which is these leaked renders. So basically, take all of the 3D renders here with a grain of salt, but also at the end we do have some more potentially legitimate leaks from some like shells and that kind of thing, right? So right here we have the left Joy-Con. As you can see, very different railing system because it's not a rail anymore. It's magnetic with much bigger SL and SR buttons, which is great. But other than that, it just looks like a Joy-Con. A little bit more rounded, I would say, right? It looks a little bit more round than the original. Then we have the right Joy-Con here, which is interesting because there's actually a new button under the home button here. Everything else looks like you'd expect, right? Same type of face button, same sticks, looks like they're about the same size. But that new button is very interesting. I wonder what that is. We did see in the leaked spec sheet that apparently there's going to be a microphone on the Switch 2. So I wonder maybe that's like a mute button. It could be like just a sleep button for the console maybe. But I think mute button makes the most sense if there is a microphone. Normally, when we talk about like Nintendo and microphones on their hardware, we're thinking of like the gimmicks where you have to blow into it to do something in a game. We're getting Call of Duty on this device. We're probably going to get some other more multiplayer-centric games. Having a microphone like the DualSense has on the PS5 makes a lot of sense from that angle, and if that is the case, if there is a microphone on the system or on the Joy-Con itself, right, like having a mute button just makes a lot of sense. Here we see a 3D model kind of comparing the back of the new Switch versus the original Switch. It looks like the kickstand is very similar to what happened with the OLED, where it's just like this big flat panel, which does not line up with the Chinese factory leak I talked about in yesterday's video, which I wasn't super believing to begin with, but that is interesting as well. You can kind of see the railing system for where the Joy-Con will go here, where once again, not a rail, you just kind of push in the Joy-Con because they have these like extended edges now. You also can't tell from this photo, but the player LEDs are front facing now, so you'll be able to see those a little bit easier. Here we have a picture comparing the sizes of the console. So obviously new Switch on the top, Switch OG on the bottom. A substantially bigger console for sure. Here we have a bit of a bottom profile, nothing too out of the ordinary here. USB-C port in the middle, as you would expect, as well as a picture going over the top angle of the console, which once again looks basically what you'd expect, except there is, if you notice by the headphone jack, kind of towards where the game card slot is, there seems to be a new port. At first I was thinking like, is this like an IR thing or something weird like that? But it does seem to be a new USB-C port. I was talking and speculating with Andre's Restart, and we were kind of thinking like, okay, why would there be two USB-C ports? I think it's likely if that is a USB-C port, it's probably so that you can actually charge it while it's in kickstand mode, because that was a big issue with the Switch. If you wanted to charge it while you're playing with the kickstand out, you had to buy like a different stand, basically. They actually released one around the time that Smash Bros. Came out, I believe. So if that's the case, if it is a USB-C port, you'll be able to charge it while you're playing with the kickstand out, which is nice, although I'm not really sure how many people would want to do that to begin with, but if like planes and stuff, that'll be nice. Then we have a picture of the back here. Once again, nothing too crazy here, except, and I'll move my face out of the way here, go to the middle. You can see the release buttons are way different. So on the Switch Joy-Con, it's just like a flat button on the back. This, they're like kind of sideways, so it looks like you'll be pressing them in, which makes sense because the Switch Joy-Con on the Switch 2, if this is all to be believed, they're magnetic, so you'll be attaching them from the left and right, whereas with the Switch, you kind of attach them from the top. So that kind of makes sense. You want to be pressing in and then pulling out, basically, to detach these. And it's also just a much bigger button, right? Like, that's a way bigger button than the other one that we had on the OG Switch. So that's interesting. And then just some more looks at the back of the Joy-Con. Fortunately, No analog triggers, it's looking like, on these on this design, which is a huge L, but it's fine, whatever. I've accepted it at this point. No analog triggers on my Nintendo consoles, I guess, although that would have been really nice. I guess for the form factor, it just makes sense to having them be digital, so they're not sticking out too much. But yeah, we see both the backs of the Joy-Con here. But then we get to what I think is like actually real. So what they're saying on Reddit here, and then what Tom Warren posted out from the Verge, is this Nintendo Switch 2. CAD images appeared on a Chinese forum earlier today, and the poster appears to be a 3D printing and reverse design enthusiast. The poster also included what could be prototype Joy-Con controllers and a potential Switch 2 mainboard, which is what we're going to get to now, and I think this is the most interesting thing about all of this. Even if those are mock-ups, right? If those are 3D mock-ups, this looks extremely real to me, because it has a freaking board in it. It has a PCB. That could be faked, right? Like that they could fake that, but I feel like it's just unlikely that that would be happening right now as opposed to earlier. We've been talking about Switch 2 leaks for 2 years now. This is something that could have leaked a long time ago, but the fact that it's happening right now when so many people are expecting some sort of Switch 2 news from Nintendo within the coming weeks, within the coming hours even potentially, the fact that it's leaking right now, we're hearing about other potential factory leaks, it just feels right, and it also just lines up with what we've heard. You can kind of see on the image here, if you looked on the left side and the right side, you can see the magnets, right? You can see the RAM, and we'll talk about the specs in a minute here. And you can also just see the shells for the Joy-Con. So it's not like these with the 3D render. This is an actual image of what seems to be like a shell or a prototype of the Switch 2, which is just super interesting. And once again, it's just the fact that it leaked now that I find it so intriguing, right? Like this could have happened any other time, but it's happening in the week that we're all expecting something to happen. It could be, if it is fake, maybe they just had it prepped and they were waiting to release it when everybody was going crazy. That is possible. So don't believe this with 100% certainty. I do personally think this is real. As someone who normally does look at rumors with a bit of a bigger magnifying glass than others, I think I'm pretty confidently on team real here. We do also have another image of the Joy-Con here showing the inside, or the inner railing, or where the rail would be on the OG Switch. And as you can see, it's that's where the magnet would go, right? That's exactly where it would go, right in the middle there. And the SL and SR buttons are way bigger this time, which is great. Still probably not going to be the most comfortable solution, right? But still, having them be bigger is a huge win. And then, yeah, just another mock-up here, but here's like the front view of the Switch with the Joy-Con attached. Looks like we'd expect. Looks like a Switch 2 in my opinion, right? But that's not all, because on the same Chinese forum, a list of specs were posted, which do line up with what we've heard from the shipping data that the great users over on FamiBoards kind of had sleuthed out earlier this year. I've talked about it in videos before, like the magnetic Joy-Con and a lot of other stuff, but let's go ahead and read through this really quick. Game console itself, left Joy-Con, right Joy-Con dock. And you can kind of read through this on your own, pause the video if you'd like. I also have it linked down below, of course. For RAM, we have two 6GB DDR5 pieces of memory in there. So that's about what the Series S has, I believe. So that's very good. That's what we've heard once again. So nothing huge, very surprising there. But 12 gigs of RAM, I've seen some people being like, oh, that's not enough. That's like really good for a handheld. And honestly, frankly, looking at these specs, I do start questioning the price a little bit. Might be more than 400. We'll see. 256 gigs of memory is pretty good as well, I would say. Not great in the context of like Call of Duty on this thing if they don't compress it, right? Because Call of Duty is oftentimes bigger than 256 gigs. But as a base, I mean, the base Switch was 32, then the OLED was 64. Jumping to 256 for a handheld, I would say is pretty good. Hopefully down the line they offer like a 512 model, maybe for like more pro consumers, right? Maybe a terabyte would even be nice. But SD cards are so cheap right now that like I'm not really worried about it. Like you can get a 1.5 terabyte SD card for like $80, $90, especially with Black Friday coming up. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe even if the Switch 2 isn't announced yet, maybe it's worth just picking up an SD card around Black Friday to get ready for this thing. There is an NFC reader in there, so you can kind of assume Amiibo support will be back. Built-in microphone, that's also very important, as I was talking about earlier. Very cool, and also just assuming it's used for voice chat and not weird gimmicks, that's very forward-thinking of Nintendo, I would say. Dual cooling fans, very cool. DisplayPort to HDMI as well as HDMI 2.1, which is great because the Switch right now is only HDMI 2.0, I'm pretty sure. So that's cool. And then just some other Wi-Fi network chip stuff, microcontroller chip model, like nothing too crazy there. I'd say the biggest things are the RAM, the memory itself, as well as just the inclusion of a microphone that I find very interesting. I wanted to share with you all because, I mean, this is all hot off the presses. This happened at like 4 a.m. this morning. I rolled over, looked at my phone, and I saw this. I was like, oh man, it's going down, isn't it? But for the second part of today's video, we need to talk about where the Switch 2 reveal is. Now, myself and a lot of others were actually expecting it to already have happened by the time you're watching this video, and frankly, this video may be dated very quickly because I'm still thinking it could happen today. And keep in mind, this is all speculation. I've seen some people saying like, oh, you're gonna have hell to pay if it doesn't happen. It's just my prediction, man. I'm just speculating for fun because it's a fun thing to do and it's fun to talk about and, you know, have these conspiracy theories about Nintendo. But looking at their Twitter account, they have not tweeted this morning. Find that pretty odd. Late last night, we did get our NSO update, so that's good. We have Battletoads and Big Run and Cosmo Gang, The Puzzle, and Kunio-kun No Dodgeball, a little Japanese ROM getting on there. Those are out now for Switch Online. Interestingly, Switch Online has happened on Tuesdays in the past, usually happens on Wednesday, Thursday, so there could be like an idea of like maybe they got those out early to make way for something, but it's the fact that they haven't tweeted yet today. Even yesterday at 6 a.m., they tweeted the iconic Day of Doom tweet for Fortnite. And we didn't get anything like that today. Nintendo of Europe has tweeted, the Japanese account has not, but also, like I was saying at the top of the video, I find this very interesting. So, you all know me, big Dragon Ball fan. We're getting the final roster trailer for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero tomorrow, and it's happening at 6:30 in the morning. Here's what I find very weird about this. Every other Sparking Zero trailer, because they announce them 24 hours in advance every time, every other trailer aired at 7 a.m. Pacific. Except for this one, which is going to be airing on the day that a lot of us are expecting the Switch 2 to be announced. That's weird. Maybe it's confirmation bias. I think that is very possible here. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe because it's a 10-minute trailer, which is longer than any other trailer we've gotten, maybe that's why they think getting it out a little bit earlier, starting the stream a little bit earlier for this trailer is a good idea. But I find it very odd that, I mean, literally every other Sparking Zero trailer, you can keep going back, that they've teased, aired at 7 a.m. Pacific. Going back to early September. Let's go back even further. Let's go to a little bit less frequent down here. Once again, here is from August 12th, 7 a.m. So they were consistently posting these new Sparking Zero trailers at 7 a.m., but for some reason tomorrow, the day we're all expecting the Switch 2 to actually have its trailer, right? Because the day we were expecting some sort of announcement of an announcement, right? That's just weird to me. And Bandai Namco, the publisher of the Dragon Ball games, is a company that would know Nintendo's plans tomorrow, right? So I just find that a little suspect. This could age very poorly. We will see. We will see in, you know, a matter of hours or maybe tomorrow morning, right? But I find that very odd, so I wanted to share that as well. But that is going to do it for today's video. A little bit more cut and loose than normal, but I wanted to get this out quickly because I know there's just so much hype. You guys killed it on yesterday's video talking about Switch 2. I'm going to probably have another video up later tonight if something else happens. It feels like there's just so much happening every hour at this point when it comes to Switch 2. And it's all a lot of little things, but they're little things that start to add up and really kind of paint a clearer picture of like what is really going on here. And going back to the Switch 2 stuff, right? The leak. It doesn't mean that Nintendo will move the presentation up, or it doesn't mean they'll you know, move the reveal of the Switch 2 up. But it does mean they messed up by not announcing it sooner. If this is real, they should have announced it sooner because now we're getting leaks. People are making up their ideas about what they're seeing of this hardware with the spec list. If this is real, it does, to me, paint a very clear picture that the Switch 2 reveal, frankly, should have already happened. But even then, I really do think we cannot be too far away. If this thing is entering mass manufacturing like we're hearing, potentially, they gotta announce it sooner than later. So we will see. I will update you all if there's any major updates or anything like that. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. That's where I tweet a lot of the stuff as it happens in real time. But that is going to do it for today's video. Very interesting, very peculiar things going on in the Nintendo Switch 2 speculation community. But I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you still on Team September, or have you given up hope now that we haven't seen any tweets from Nintendo? Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 news, speculation, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter, as I said. Follow my other channel at It's Amiibo. And until next time, folks, peace.